Hi, I'm Celia. I've been a customer success engineer at Plotly for 3 years, and I'm going to share with you some of my tips and tricks to diagnose issues in Dash apps. In this video, we are going to see how errors appear in a Dash app depending on how we are running it. By how we are running it, I mean that there are two possible environments in which we can run our Dash app, and those are the development environment and the deployment environment. By the development environment, I refer to those scenarios in which we are running our app locally or in an in-browser IDE like Dash Enterprise Workspace. In those cases, we are running the app according to the commands that we specify in the terminal, and we get the logs in the debug menu or in the terminal itself. By the deployment environment, I mean those scenarios in which we have pushed our code to a platform like Dash Enterprise, Heroku, or similar. In those cases, the app is run according to what we have specified in the proc file, and we get the logs in the logs tab of that platform. In this video, I'm going to show you 4 cases. The first 3 refer to the development environment, and the fourth one is for a deployment environment. The first one is going to be running the app with Python app.py and debug equals true. The second one the same, but with debug equals false. The third one is a bit different because we will run the app with the unicorn command that we typically specify in the proc file. So we typically use this command or this scenario when we want to simulate in development the behavior that the app is going to have in deployment. And finally, the fourth one is what I have described before in the previous slide regarding running the app based on what is specified in the proc file, which in the most simple case will be web unicorn app server. Let's start with the first case. For this video, I'm going to use a Dash Enterprise Workspace as the development environment. A Dash Enterprise Workspace is just an in-browser IDE quite similar to Visual Studio Code, which is what I like to use locally. You will see that on the left, I have the list of files for my app, and here I have the app.py file open. The first step to run the app is to open a terminal. I'm going to start with the first case. I'm going to run the app, and then I'm going to explain a bit what this specific app does. So I'm going to run python app.py, and I'm going to push enter. You will see that I get here the URL where the app is running right now. If you were running this locally, you would see here the local host. Dash Enterprise Workspaces have a really cool feature, which is the Preview tab, which is this eye here. So if I click on it, I will get a new tab as part of the workspace with this URL that I have highlighted here before, and I can see the development app running. I can also open it in a new tab if that's more comfortable. But for a quick preview, this is quite useful. Actually, to explain what this app does, I'm going to use this view side by side because it's easier to compare the code and how it looks. This app, as you will see on the right side, has 2 sections. In the first section, as the title says, I have a working callback. This callback involves a button and a div. If I click the button here, the div will get updated with this text. You may have also noticed that I got a new line here in the terminal. That's a print statement that I included in my callback. I will explain more of that later. This is the part of the layout that is involved in this first section, and this is the callback that causes this interaction. And this is the print statement that I mentioned before. When we are running a Dash app from a terminal in a development environment, we get the print statements in the terminal. both if we are using debug equals true, debug equals false, or the unicorn scenario I indicated in the previous slides, the third case of the development environment. Okay, that's the part related to the first callback. Now let's see the second callback. As the title says, this callback will fail because I have modified the code. If I hadn't modified the code, what this callback or what this section would do is when a user selects a country here, Spain or Canada, the options of this drop-down below would be updated with relevant cities for that country. So for example, if I selected Spain, I should be able to see the options here, but I got this pop-up, which is part of the Dash DevTools. This code is the part of the layout that is involved in this callback, and if I scroll down, I have the callback here that will fail. It also has a print statement. If we go back to the terminal, you will see that even though the callback fails, I get the print statement because, small spoiler, the part of the callback that fails is this one, since I have the print statement before the failing part of the code. Until here, all of the callback runs fine. The error happens later. As a final detail that I want you to look at, we have this code block at the end, if name equals main, app.run debug equals true. When we are running the app with Python app.py, this part of the code evaluates to true, so this app.run is executed. And here, debug equals true is what indicates if I want to enable the Dash DevTools. If I had debug equals false, they would be disabled. So let's dive in the first case, which is already running here, but now let's look what makes it special or different compared to the other cases. I'm going to stop this and rerun it again so that you have a clearer idea of what's going on. When I have debug equals true, I have how true loading enabled. That means that whenever there's a change in the app code that is saved, the app will be refreshed. Even if I just added some comments here, hi, I'm a comment, and saved it, you will see how this has been refreshed. This thing, these arrows that I get here in the bottom right corner, are the Dash DevTools, which appear if we have debug equals true. I'm using Dash higher than 3.0. If you are using Dash lower than 3.0, the Dash DevTools will look slightly different. They will appear as a blue circle with the less than and greater than icons. But the functionality is quite similar. I'm going to quickly visit the big view of the app so that you can see how they get reflected in a wider screen. I have a callback graph where I can see some details. You can check the documentation that I have linked in the description box below to learn how to interpret these shapes. But in this video, I want to focus on the errors. Right now, I don't have anything because no callback has run, actually. If I trigger the successful one, the errors won't get updated either. However, if I trigger the failing one, I will get this pop-up, and if I click on this little arrow, the up arrow here, I will see more details about the traceback. This key error Canada is the first line of the traceback, but if I read further down here, and if I click on this, I can see the context of the code where that error happened. As I hinted previously, the line that fails is the cities line. or the line where the city's object is created. Specifically, the selected country, Canada, with a capital C, is not a key that is present in the All Options dictionary. Since I have designed this app, I know that in all options the keys are all with lowercase. That's why it's saying key error, because this key with a capital C is not being found. The main idea is that whenever an error happens in a callback, when I'm running the app with Python app.py debug equals true, I will get a pop-up here. So what happens if I go back to the terminal? In the terminal, the only information that I got were the print statements that I had inside each of the callbacks. I have one record for the one time that I ran the successful callback, and another two for each of the times that I ran the failing callbacks. I included a timestamp so that it's clearer. But that's the information that I get when I have debug equals true. The errors are in the debug menu here, which can also be collapsed, and the print statements are here. Let's see what happens if I specify debug equals false. I'm going to stop this app. I'm going to clear the terminal, and I'm going to change here debug to false. I'm going to save the changes and again run python app.py. Just from the beginning, we can see that the information that we get in the terminal is more detailed. If I open the wider view of the development app, you will notice that in the bottom right corner, I don't get the debug menu anymore. In the terminal, I get more detailed information about the requests that are being run in the background just because of the app is running. That's normal, that's expected. What we are interested in seeing is how a successful and a failing callback are reflected when we run the app with debug equals false. Let's take a last look here. Okay, this is the state before triggering the callback. I'm actually going to trigger them from here because I think the view will be more complete. If I trigger a successful callback, I get both the information that a callback has been triggered here. This dash update component name reflects a callback request, and I also get the print statement. I'm inside the working callback. However, when I run the failing callback, for example, with Spain, I also get the record regarding the information that a callback has run, but I also get all of the traceback that I got before in the debug menu. So when I'm running the app with python app.py and debug equals false, I get all of the information in the terminal. I'm going to stop the app now and we are going to see the third case. Now that the app has been stopped, if I refresh this, I could get this error because the app is unavailable, because there's no instance of the development app running. If you remember the slides, the third case that we wanted to see is the one that simulates how the app will run once it's deployed. That means that we will need to copy the first command of the proc file without the web colon first. This is the name of the process that we run once the app is deployed, and this is the code that this process will be running. That's why we only copy this part after the first column. In terms of the amount of information that we get when we run the app with Unicorn app colon server, this is a quite similar case to running the app with python app.py debug equals false. Let's refresh the preview here to see that the app is actually running. And if I trigger a successful callback, I actually get a bit less information, but that's because of the log level that we have specified for the unicorn process. Right now, it's only info, but we can specify a level with higher detail, like, for example, debug. If we wanted to get the same amount of information that we have when we run the app with Python app.py debug equals false, we could specify here in this command log level debug. I have also included in the description box below a link where you can take more information about these options. In any case, what we do get here is the print statement that we had inside of the callback. If I trigger the failing callback, I get the traceback, like when I was running the app with Python app.py debug equals false, and I also get this information about running a callback, like the request that failed, and the print statement. This is the same information that I will get in the logs once the app is deployed. Actually, the app is already deployed to the server, so I'm going to show you how these failing and successful callbacks are reflected in the logs. I'm going to stop this process first, and I'm going to go to the app manager here. To visit the deployed app, I can go to this link. I'm going to click on it, and you will see that a new tab has been opened with the working and the failing callback. If I trigger the successful callback, I won't see anything here. You may have also noticed that I don't have the debug menu here. And since everything has gone okay, I don't see anything in the user interface. What happens if I run the failing callback? In this case, I'm going to choose Canada. Nothing is shown in the user interface again because I don't have the debug menu. But if I go back to the app manager and go to the logs tab, and I scroll all the way down, I can see that this timestamp, which is the current time where I'm based, I get the traceback with the key error Canada. Just to show you how this is synchronized, if I select Spain now and go back to the logs and refresh them, I get key error Spain. If I scroll a bit up, I can also see that I get the print statements that I had included, both in the failing callback and in the working callback. So the amount of information that I get in the four situations is very similar. The main difference is where I can find it. When I'm developing an app, I typically use Python app.py with debug equals true, because that allows me to see errors in real time. When I want to debug some issues in development, but that I think will happen only in the deployment environment, I use the third case, running the app with the commands that I have specified in the proc file from the Dash Enterprise workspace, because that allows me to have more control and to iterate over different situations in a faster way, because I don't need to redeploy each time. Thanks for watching. I hope it was helpful. This video is part of a series on debugging Dash apps, so please make sure to check the description box for the resources that I have linked.